I ask you to come in and have a seat. Hello, hello. Now it's time for the karaoke party. 18th October program event. Oh, yes. Event in English. Okay, there's still some people outside. Maybe we ask them to join. Cameras are not recording, dear Nico. There is no, or this one, yes. This one also. Streams to show? Ah, okay, good. Welcome in the live stream also. We started a bit late, but we have enough time today. So take a coffee and some croissants, we have enough, and to start in the day. So welcome again on our second day of the Seestadt Symposium in the framework of the European collaboration project Turning the Tide. Yesterday we had a very interesting session about urban planning, about the role of art in urban planning, about water in Vienna, and the presentation of the map from Deer Hunter. We cross fingers, maybe they arrive today, the printed one, so maybe we get some printed maps today. Today I want to welcome our Vice Director, Karin Moser. She could not be here with us yesterday, but we are very happy to have her here today. In a few minutes she will speak some words to us. Let's just summarize the program for today. We have some welcome speech, some welcome words from Karin, and then our partners in the project will present themselves. As most of you know, Wiener Bildungsakademie, we will not present, but I think you know us anyway. But maybe the other partners are more interesting in this framework. Then we have a short keynote about the political side of sustainability. Christian Kaisereder from the organization Initiative for Sustainability in the Social Democratic Party of Austria cannot be here. He is corona positive, so Peter will he will present his slides, and he's also an expert on this topic. Then we have a short break, and then we have the artist presentations, like the main point for today. We have it in two sections. At first, the local artists, Anni Was, Paul Kitzmüller, Daniel Böswirth, and Daniel Sukow, moderated by our curator Karl Kilian. And then the main point for today, or the second main point, is the presentation of the international artists, Camilla Komit and Jenny Marketu. And after the discussion here, we are going outside to see the artwork of Anni Was, The Whale, and at the end we are going to Jenny's boat, to the artwork of the boat, so please be prepared, we go there afterwards. Okay, thank you for that. And now it's time for Karin.
Einen schönen Vormittag. Ich darf Sie herzlich seitens der Wiener Bildungsakademie bei dem Projekt Turning the Tide, gefördert von der Europäischen Union, begrüßen. Wir werden heute den gesamten Tag in englischer Sprache gestalten. Das wollte ich Ihnen auch noch sagen. Deswegen werde ich jetzt dann noch fortsetzen. Wir haben immerhin internationale Gäste und Künstler, die uns ja auch ihre Projekte vorstellen werden. Also werde auch ich jetzt in die englische Sprache wechseln. Good morning. I just started in German to explain that we will be holding the event in English. After all, we have international guests and artists who will be discussing their projects with us. I would like to start with the quote from a wise woman. She fought for climate justice. She was a politician and Nobel Prize winner from Kenya. It's a quote by Wangari Maathai. The quote: "Until you dig a hole, plant a tree, water it, and make it survive, you haven't done a thing. You're just talking." And Nobel Prize winner Wangari Maathai said, it is now time to act. It is not enough to just talk about the world's problem. We must take action, take responsibility, and work together to find solutions. Especially in the field of environmental protection, we face enormous challenges that leave no room for mere words. It's about how we protect our environment, how we soften the impacts of climate change, and how we create a sustainable future. I'm delighted to welcome you all here today as part of the second International Lab of the Turning the Tide project. This project brings together art, culture, and environmental protection. Three forces that works together to not only make us think, but also inspire us to act. In this context, I would particularly like to emphasize the role of culture. Culture is not only a form of creative expression, but also an effective tool for tackling social and ecological problems. It helps us to make contacts, promote understanding, and build community in all areas of our life. Climate protection, environmental protection is a key issue in our society. Art and culture offer us the opportunity to raise awareness of environmental protection in a creative, perhaps even playful way. As Nobel Prize winner Wangari Maathai reminds us, this is not just about environmental issues, but also about social justice. And in many ways, environmental protection is a social issue as well. I think that's quite important. I'm really very, very pleased that so many committed women are involved in this project, contributing their creativity and expertise in meaningful ways. Artists like Jenny Marketu from Greece, Kamila Homic from Poland, and local artists such as Anivas demonstrate how diverse and important the role of women is in both art and environmental protection. In fact, it is always women who take the lead in campaigning for a fairer and more sustainable world. Many of them are also part of the project Turning the Tide, and that's really great, I think. I would thank you to all the women here. I would especially like to thank Ivona Price, the director of Intercult from Sweden and the driving force behind Turning the Tide. Without her dedication and vision, this project would not have been possible. So thank you very much, Ivona, for your engagement and your inspiration. Many thanks also to the River Cities organization, with whom the Wiener Bildungsakademie has been working closely for decades. We have already been able to realize a number of European projects together, and these cooperations are of great value to us as they enable us to work across borders and find solutions to global challenges together. Our partner organizations, including Artit from Greece, the Urban Culture Institute from Poland, Fable Vision from Scotland, and of course Intercult from Sweden, and they all bring their unique perspectives and expertise to this project. And together, we create a space for dialogue, creativity, and collaboration that help us rethink the future of our cities and even our planet. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank my team at the Wiener Bildungsakademie for their great work. A big thank goes to Bernd Herger. Bernd, you are doing a great job. Da bist du. You are doing a great job, and Bernd is the soul of the project here in Vienna, so thank you so very much for all your work. You also already applauded, I would do it now, but danke. Finally, I would like to emphasize how important it is that we come together as Europeans to tackle the challenges of our time. Europe is not just a geographical area, but a community based on solidarity and shared values. In projects like Turning the Tide, we see how strong this community can be when we work together, share ideas, and fight for a better future. And now, I would like to wish you an exciting day with our artists and their projects. Stay interested, stay alert, and let us be a part of a great European community of solidarity. Thank you.
So now it's time for your presentation, Peter. So, kommen wir zuerst die Partner. Oh, sorry, the partner presentations. Oh, Pete. Okay, so should we just go with this order? So, yeah. So. It's this one.
No, this is the PDF. Should I stand or can I sit? I don't know. It's up to me. Okay, so if you don't mind, I will sit because when I stand, I feel like a performer. I don't like that feeling. Maybe even like a singer, which I'm not, totally not. Don't even ask me. Okay. That's, I don't know if sitting is a good idea because I don't see everyone. Okay. You know, that's quite funny because when I was preparing the presentation, I think I forgot about some memo about the topic of the presentation. Apparently, we were supposed to talk a lot about local artists, which I'm going to do, of course. But the basis of my presentation is the actual state of Gdańsk, the city I am representing. I don't remember if Bernd have already said who I am, so I will officially, tell you. My name is Maja Murawska, and I am a curator from Gdańsk. I'm representing Urban Culture Institute in Gdańsk, but I'm not the employee of the Urban Culture Institute. That's why I will not tell you, a bunch of things about the program of the Cultural Institute, which is of course rooted in culture and history of Gdańsk and dealing with all of this stuff, combined nature with culture and performative arts even. I know because I'm a participant from this citizen, part of the project that Urban Culture Institute is year by year doing this festival called Narracje, which is a festival based in different parts of the city, which is very much rooted in history of this place, also dealing with the topics of nature and this socially based art. So that's all I'm gonna say about the culture part of our institution. Let's just talk more about maybe not challenges, but the responses that Gdańsk is doing towards the climate change, about the topic we are all discussing during this symposium. I think that the basis of the discussions are always this different kind of analysis reports, discussion made by municipality with all the stakeholders and also with the people, which is not so usual for Gdańsk. I know that here in Seestadt you are talking a lot about this discussion, public discussions. This has already only started in Gdańsk. I would like to say that this is done professionally and proficient, which is not actually. I feel that we, as a community of people, as a citizens, citizens, we are just a tool used by the municipality just to discuss some topics and not to involve our point of view in this decision making, but it is still a process. So we are just waiting, and we are hopeful that our voices will be heard someday. Of course, Gdańsk as a city is already doing a lot of things in order to change our, as citizens, points of view, and doing this natural, ecologically based things like the decision not to cut the grass, every few weeks. We are doing this as Gdańsk only twice a year. So this is a process we are, already starting. What is also more often seen is in Gdańsk are those community gardens, herbal gardens, and the idea of edible city, which is quite interesting for me. But of course, we are dealing with developers as well as you do in your own cities. So it's pros and cons of every decisions. And I think that the leading part of this change are institutions and people connected to the cultural sector, which are always, on this avant-garde part of the change. And of course, Urban Culture Institute, with me, with Natalia, we are this kind of spokesman for this idea, and hopefully, our voices will be heard someday. And of course, non-profit organization like Intercult in Sweden, we've got a bunch of them in Poland, in Gdańsk as well. So these are these institutions that are working on and trying to make a change. And we actually have been the first institution, the first partner that already did international residencies done by Deer Hunter and done by international artists in June this year. We hosted this event, this kind of symposium as well about water, about climate changes in Gdańsk. I had the pleasure to work with 3 artists. Eva Andronikidou, I don't know if I have murdered her name. Okay, all good. From Greece, Robin Woolston from Scotland, and Katarzyna Piurek from Sweden. We've all decided collectively, even before they came, that because of the space within the institute and with the knowledge that we will not be able to gain permission to do something in the public space, we'll present the outcome of their work inside the institute. So most of them did installation and videos, and we of course organized this symposium as a final, as a conclusion of this international residency. On the other hand, we are doing this local stuff, local residencies, local urban labs. We already did one series of these residencies in the spring. Now we're doing the second one. The first artist we worked with from May were those girls, those artists behind me. Weronika Zalewska, who actually lives in Warsaw but came to Gdańsk for a few weeks. Thank you, Bernd. And she was doing a video. She was working with female scientists working in Institute of Oceanology in the Polish Academy of Science in Sopot near Gdańsk. and talking with them about their personal connection with their work, with the work they're doing regarding Baltic waters. So this was very, subtle video about their personal points of view in their professional work. Not done by, many women at all. I will, about the other artist, who is Natalia Revko. She is actually an Ukrainian artist who came to Gdańsk a few years ago at the beginning of the war in Ukraine. Now she moved to USA for a few months doing her residency there. Hopefully she will be back in Gdańsk after that. What is she doing? She did this kind of performative walk, streamed, and hopefully we will be able to hear it because she recorded this performative walk and talk. We will be able to hear it on our website, maybe in a few days or weeks, fingers crossed. What is she? Her point of view and her artistic practice is to always bring with her this sound box, which is created to gather the sounds from around the place she's visiting. And during this performative walk, she spoke with Natalia Grzymała, a local activist, and they spoke about the natural habitats in the city, about the nature, and about how the city is trying to develop these areas, these spaces, just simply destroy them and make them into, a new parts of city apartments developed by, architecture. So that was the topic. And two other artists we are working now with are Bartosz Zimniak and Zuzanna Kołodziej. And we chose them because they are super interested in working with the community, with local communities. Bartosz is doing his project. The outcome is going to be this kind of children's game, like Doble or Memory. I don't know if you know the concept of the game. I think it's going to be, this memory based game. And he is working with local youth community around the district he is working, which is called Newport. I think that they planned also a trip to the Hel Peninsula nearby Gdańsk, so they're gonna discuss the importance of endangered species like seals, also connected to Baltic waters and this kind of stuff. And Zuzanna Kołodziej is 3D artist. She's doing this visual films, digitally, of course, made. And the topic she's working on is the process of daylightening the streams, which is bringing back to the surface the concreted streams, once concreted, and then the idea is to resurface those streams back to the public, give the nature back to the public. She already did one performative walk with the history of this place given by the other historian, and now she's working on the workshop for the community, for the public. And just to sum up, when I think about what have been discussed during this last 2 days, a lot of the people talk about the idea that they started with 10 years ago when building this area, and now the idea and the outcome of this firstly, initial thoughts are different. And when I think about what the situation was in Gdańsk 10 years ago, I think that that was a time when we were trying to normalize the problem of climate change. And I think that nowadays we don't need and don't have to talk about this normalization of the problems. We have to normalize the solutions. The things that we are going to change should be the things that we are changing now, not only just by discussing it, which is of course important, but also by doing those things day by day, just trying to do more, always expect more. Don't settle for less than you really like, you really hope, and just be this avant-garde of change, of protecting the nature, protecting your personal cause. So thank you.
Thank you. I think maybe if there are questions, we will do that after all partner presentations. And today, I will not forget this.
Hi. Yes. So I'm going to be very quick because I have like a 5-minute rolling video in the background, which was a very bright idea on my part. But yeah, that means I just have to tell you only the very important stuff. So my name is Sofia Kouli, and I'm here with my colleague Anais Rousseau from Artit in Greece. So Artit is a hub. It's a digital platform filled with art opportunities. So it's easy for artists to create freely, showcase their work to the right people, and get discovered, get recognized. We have various art opportunities. They can create their portfolio very easily. They can upload all their works and descriptions and participate in several contests that have loads of rewards, anything from cash awards, art residencies like this one, opportunities to interview, and so on and so forth. But moving on to the Evia Labs, we picked Evia. It's the second largest island in Greece, and it's basically been hit by severe wildfires over the last 4 years, followed by extreme heavy rainfalls and storms, which caused further problems for the residents and is creating huge uncertainty for the future of the local communities, the infrastructure, the natural landscape. So yeah, we thought it was an important area to discover and get our artists to talk more about. So round one has been complete. These are the two artists we chose. So it's Yorgos Gerontidis and Christina Maridaki. And over the next few minutes, so now I can take a breath because it's a video, it's basically a trailer of each one of them. First one is Yorgos Gerontidis. They both created a documentary. Each had a different focus. So Yorgos Gerontidis in particular, it's called Vulnerable Nets. And he focused a lot on North Evia, the collectives there, the associations, the social enterprises, people who work to protect the environment themselves, but also educate and inform the community about the environment, what can they do, even spoke to the firefighters volunteer association to see how they educate the public to prevent fires, which then cause, again, the land to burn, and then when the storms come and the rainfalls come, it just makes life a lot harder for the residents. So yeah, here you see all the people he spoke with, and just to say as well that this was a collaborative effort for the documentary with with a community of young adults and teenagers. So he helped them kind of prepare for an event they were hosting, and they helped him produce his documentary. So it's a really nice collaborative effort. And now we're going to move on to Christina Maridaki. Her work was more, after these two. Her work was called Feminine Insularity. So she has a documentary and a booklet accompanying this. And it's a lot about the women in Evia. She chose a very small and subjective part of a very large municipality of Istia in Edipsos. And it's basically near the Lutra, which is the thermal springs. And it's a lot about how these women live there, how they construct their identity through their activities and their relationship with one another. And it was interesting because when we visited Evia all together, it was very obvious that you could see women walking in twos, helping each other, and that's what she observed as well. That's why she wanted to focus on that aspect. So it's a lot about gender, how these women live near water, what their experience is, what their idea is, and their thoughts about climate, about the environment, and so on and so forth. And of course, the healing properties of the water in that case, and how that collective strength and the relationship they have with one another is kind of keeping them together and helping them move forward, despite the difficulties. And yeah, the booklet as well has a lot of resources of her work. So she speaks a lot about the geology of the space, the ecofeminism, and yeah, climate. And round 2 is currently in progress. We have selected Maria Guveli and Angela Liosi. So this keeps me going, right? So yeah, they are currently finalizing their works. They're in production process. They've done the research already. Now I'm going to go back to this. Yeah. So they've done their research already, and they've done workshops with children. They have a very good idea of what they're working on. And yeah, it's very refreshing to see. We've just finished a workshop as well, which was very interesting. There was a lot of discussion about Evia in particular, but also in general about how people in Greece see these problems and how their relationship is with climate change and their opinions and so on and so forth. And that's also, yeah, follow along to stay in touch and also up to date with everything the Ardit is doing, but also anything related to the Turning the Tide project. That's all. Thank you. So up next is Elisabeth Papageorgiou from Intercult. And Bernd is going to come up here and get the presentation up.
Very good presenter, very good.
So you're this one, yes.
Yes.
Full screen is here. Yeah, you can also use this. It's working, yes.
Okay. Hello. So I'm Elisabeth Papageorgiou. I'm from Intercult in Stockholm. I'm here together with Ivona Price, our CEO. Intercult is we like to say, cultural hub in Stockholm. This is us. This is our team. We are working with international and local projects, cultural projects. We initiate international collaborations, and we put it also in local context. This is our specialty, let's say. We want to support artists. Our goal is to support artists and also make culture a driving force to raise awareness on social issues. We are working with different subjects. It depends on the time. We're working with climate change, sustainability, gender, equality, digital tools in performing arts. It depends, and it's changing constantly. In this project, our main focus is the drinking water in Stockholm. Right now, we have the Lake Mälaren that has the drinking water that 2 million people are drinking in Stockholm, and by 2040, it's going to be 3 million people that are dependent in this water. The main issue is that the water is affected with climate change because of flooding, brownification, but also the danger of contaminating the lake with salt water from the Baltic Sea. There is this floodgate in the area of focus that I'm showing right now, which is Startgården in Slussen. It's a big area in the city center. Construction works are everywhere right now for many, many years. This is the main floodgate of the lake to the Baltic Sea, and it's the story is that scientists expecting around 100 years, the water of the Baltic Sea goes up and passes the floodgate, so it will contaminate eventually the salt water of Stockholm. And this is what we are focusing on. The area is very big. It's a big construction area. There are many buildings with a big cultural heritage and many stories. The specific place that I'm showing here, it was a terminal that right now it's transferred to a cultural center. There are many, many city development projects, plans in the area that will happen the next years. Here you can see the floodgate, and it's the new place that has already, some finished plans are already in place there. This year, the place has opened for the public, but there's still a lot of work to do. So starting with, because I'm going to focus more about our artists and our local labs, the first local lab, obviously, it was in the summer of 2024. And the artists are Ongoing Realities and Tina Eskilsson. We had many planned activities for them. Among others, we visited the place with the specialist that you can see here, Stefano Gilardi. Stefano, I'm not sure. No, Vilardi, sorry. He's a cultural heritage specialist, and he showed the area and the stories behind its building. The artists also visited cultural places in the area, and then we had we had a round table with scientists and climate specialists and representatives of the city, and we visit an exhibition that is in the area, which is showing in, as you see in the big model, the plans and how is the area is going to be developed in the future. Trying to reach as many people as possible, we had this presentation of the artworks. Tina Eskilsson here that you see, actually it's not a full screen because I have written their names, but anyway, it doesn't matter. We, in collaboration with Kulturfestivalen, which is a big cultural festival in Stockholm happening once a year that attracts more than 2 million people in total, we presented the artworks of the artists of the first local lab. Here you can see Tina Eskilsson. She's a visual artist. She's been working more than 30 years with water, and she creates these really interesting drops, water drops from latex. She filled in the drops with water from Lake Mälaren, and she wanted to create this effect that you will see in the left picture, that you can see the city from the other side. And those drops were sometimes unexpectedly bursting. Now it's not very unexpected, but it's just to show, because we were filming, but it was never exploding. Just to show the fragility of the environment. and how the city can change with the climate change. It attracted a lot of people. It was also a selfie point for many people in the area. And that actually created discussions. People were asking what it is about, and then they shared their stories and how they see water in Stockholm. So it was really interesting to see them all there and make all these big discussions. Here it's me on the other side. And also my children, were really excited to play with drops. And the interesting point, that's why I put it, it's because the left picture is taken from my daughter, and the children were basically seeing the clouds, which was also very fun for them. The next artist, it's such a pity that it's not a full screen, but anyway. They're ongoing realities. It's an artistic duo. They're performers working with digital tools and dancers. So what they do, they did a satirical performance of the future of Stockholm. You can see here the Anna, which is, she wore clothes that kind of reminded of a future Paris Hilton, being independent and wearing clothes out of waste. Dancing with her own little boat that you see there, and drinking water from her own bottle that has the only water in Stockholm. It was actually, again, in the Slussen area during the culture festival. People were passing by. It was really interesting that they were stopping and watching them. It was a spontaneous, let's say, public performance. Our next, for the next local residency, we have Maria Andrea Robital. She's a circus artist and researcher. She will be working with semaphores and how the semaphores can be used in communicating the challenges that we have. She's currently arranging some workshops in Stockholm with other artists, but also students from the university, to create something like the one that you see, a flag. And she's planning to make a performance again in public space. Even she's now thinking about even making a flash mob with a flag that they will create to wave and dance about the change that is happening, and pass the message with her art. The next one that we have is Ludmila Kristesheva. She's a Belarusian living in Stockholm for many years. She's an activist and a visual artist and UX designer that works a lot with people. She's such a people person. And she has already had some workshops at the lake. She's working with a company which is called, I don't remember. No, I don't, I'm sorry. What this company is doing is, Oceans to People. Yes, I remember. They are working with the lake, and they have divers that collect waste from the city. So what she's going to create is a conceptual fish soup from what we are going to eat in the future, based on all the waste that they are collecting from the lake. And she will create a video about that, a small documentary. She's also working with children from the area and making some apple pies as desserts of the fish soup. So this is it for us. Thank you so much.
Which was your presentation now? This one? No. This was?
It says Vienna 2024. It says Vienna 2024.
Britta, was war Ihre Präsentation? Oder war das die, die nicht funktioniert hat? Oder ist sie offen? Ah, nein, das ist hier. Ah, hier.
This one,
Ja,
yeah.
so, das one.
Great. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Is this on? Yes, is it on? Yeah. So I'm Liz Gardiner. My organisation is Fable Vision in Scotland. And we began life in the 1980s. We were working in newly built peripheral housing areas outside of the city of Glasgow. The city was trying to create something in the region of Seestadt, but they didn't have the foresight to think about the people and what the needs would be. So what happened was they built houses, just houses, nothing else. There were no schools, there was no doctor's surgery, there was nothing at all except houses. And it was the artists who moved in who brought the culture, who brought the vision for a new way of living. And it became the Easter House Festival Society, and they created their own culture, really. And so where we've been working for all of those decades is in that interface between art and activism. Where does one end and the other begin? The focus of our case study in Glasgow is in another area just outside the city centre called Govan, which has been an area of shipbuilding history, huge industrial history, which has now gone. And 750 high-rise flats were proposed to be built on the remains, the only remains of docklands in Govan, to obliterate, to take over the industrial heritage. And it was Professor Stephen Driscoll who said that Govan has actually had 2 eras of greatness, and that's 2 more than most places. In the first era, we had Viking and medieval history with hogback stones and Govan Old Church with its ancient churchyard. And in more recent eras, we had the shipbuilding, the industrial history, where the River Clyde was hugely important to that shipbuilding and that industry. And what we have remaining now is this almost the last remaining piece of industrial heritage in Scotland, which is Govan's ancient graving docks, Govan's beautiful. We think of them as like the equivalent of the Egyptian pyramids made of granite. And yeah, you can see the juxtaposition of the old and the new. This is the only remaining building on the site, this pump house. And the rest is just the creeping of the modernity. Artists have found this site fascinating for the last few decades, and we've been involved with that kind of activism on the site, and debate, and linking always with other European cities, which if you know what's happening in the UK, you will realise that that has been a great sadness for us that we're not able to be full partner participants in this project. We've had artists intervening on the docks. We've linked with Gdansk in Poland because we've got a very similar history and heritage there. And the 750 high-rise flats that were proposed for the Govan graving docks to obliterate that industrial heritage, strangely enough, it was climate change that has saved the docks, because the city changed its policy and decided that no longer could housing developments be built so close to the river because of the risk of flooding. So the docks were saved, the industrial heritage was saved through climate change. But what next? The high-rise flats are averted, but what's next? What's the wider problem still exists there. Is it going to become commodified? Are we going to have standardization? Will there be an erosion of local distinctiveness? Will there be a loss of cultural biodiversity? Because the docks have a really biodiverse habitat of their own. Will they be reduced to non-places and any places? And another aspect of our project is climate justice. What happens to the people who actually live on the site, the river side near the docks has been inhabited by show people for many decades, almost 100 years. And certainly since shipbuilding has the demise of shipbuilding, when the ground was contaminated, show people, travelling people were allowed to live there. But now, of course, it's prime land, and the council wants it back for building, for gentrification. So what's the answer? Well, a culturally sensitive approach to planning and policy is what we've been advocating, not like the definition of culture as arts, although artists and the arts are very, very important in that, but more the Raymond Williams definition of culture, which is a way of life, the way we live, our histories, our heritage, our stories, our landscape, our biodiversity. That is our culture. And unpacking the DNA of a place, getting under the skin of it, the way you're now doing in Seestadt, to find out what's here and how we can build on what's here for the future. This, if we see a place through that lens of cultural planning, of mapping what's here and building sensitively on what's actually here, then we have a special place for the future. And cultural planning always starts with mapping. That's what Deer Hunter have been helping to do here. Mapping what's here already in the landscape, the history, the heritage, the buildings and the nature, the natural biodiversity, the stories, the people, because the people are the most important. It's it's gone. So obviously it's not all downloaded, right? Okay, so that's our case study. It's the Govan graving docks we're going to be looking at. We've been, sorry, some of my slides haven't downloaded, but we're working now we're slightly behind because we're not able to be full partners in the project. So our first local lab will be happening in November. We'll have a big conversation with the City Council. What this project has allowed us to do is to make that move from local people as activists into local people working in partnership with the local authority, in partnership with the planners. So our first local urban lab will be on the 13th of November, where we will bring all those bodies together with the artists who are working there locally. They're called 16 Nicholson Street. They're a group of artists, collaboratives, who are also activists, but they're socially engaged. They're working with the local people, with the young people. And as Artit said, watch this space. We'll keep posting as to how we're developing locally. Thank you.
So, yeah, it's the last slide.
Hello, hello everybody. My name is Peter Filipczuk. I'm not Christian Kaiserseder, who should be standing here today and who also created this presentation. Sadly, he's sick with COVID at the moment, and as a member of the Initiative of Sustainability, I thought maybe I would just talk a bit to the slides that he made, because I thought it'd be a shame to not at least discuss and think about this topic a bit. So what we will be talking about is environmentalism in politics, especially in the framework of the Social Democratic Party in Vienna and the Initiative for Sustainability. I would like to start off by talking about why global warming and why climate change is important for politics. First, I mean, it's one of the largest challenges that humanity has ever faced, so that obviously makes it important to politics. Second, I think that you can see nowadays that it is in the people's interest, and it is a true desire of most people living in cities or in the countryside, that we move and shift towards a more sustainable society. And that is something that you can observe in Austria over time quite well. As a party that's always been in governance since the foundation of the Second Republic, so after World War II, even within left-wing politics, you could see a shift. After the war, of course, the priority was in providing housing, providing jobs. Then, after a certain standard of living was restored again, the topics that were relevant for politics or for left-wing politics shifted a bit towards civil rights movements, reproductive rights, women's rights, and so on. And I think one of the key moments in Austrian politics where environmentalism first truly became relevant was at the end of the 20th century. It all started with the construction of a hydrological power station and also a nuclear power station in Austria. The construction of the hydrological power station also led to the foundation of the Greens Party, as they were protesting in a natural park where it was supposed to be built. And the nuclear power plant was constructed in a village called Zwentendorf, and then we had a referendum and the population actually voted against it. So it was never actually operative, and now we just have this massive empty nuclear power plant. And I think that was one of the first moments where the broader public really started to rally behind the ideas of environmentalism. And then 30 years later, I think that really took off around the 2010s approximately, with the school climate strike movement and just the global climate and global warming advocacy movement that has also found its way into politics. And now you see that voters under 35, environmentalism is their number one reason for voting, especially in urban areas. This is even more prominent in female voters, but is visible across all voting groups under 35. And third, I think another reason why it's inherently important for left-wing politics is because it's a social topic. not just on a global scale, but also on a national scale. But more to that later. Okay. Well, the writing of the PowerPoint is in black and the background is in dark green, so that wasn't the best idea by Christian, but maybe that can help you. Maybe that can help you focus on my words instead. So the initiative was founded in 2018 by Christian Kaiserseder and David Steiner and was officially adopted and made part of the Federal Party in December 2018. So what is an initiative? An initiative is essentially a working group that can be created by people within the party and then approved by the party board. And it allows normal people that aren't full-time politicians in their jobs and have to talk about all these topics anyhow. It allows normal people to actually participate in the policy-making process regarding environmentalism. So we have this system called Anträge, which essentially you could translate it into resolutions or policy recommendations. So each initiative is able to actually come up with their own policy recommendations, which then can be handed into the party convention, and then all party members, when we have a party assembly, can actually vote on certain topics. So this allows people that actually live in affected areas and live in areas where they see what could be improved every single day to actually participate in the policy-making process rather than just having people trying to solve problems from above rather than actually including the population. I think you can see it now. Okay, so why was the thematic initiative founded? With the rapidly advancing global warming, our prosperity and society are at risk to an unprecedented extent. So this is the global average surface temperature. And as you can see, it's been steadily increasing to the point where we can say this is not an anomaly, this is truly a trend, and it will be further increasing. And I said before that it's a social issue. And you can see this here. Even if you just look at Vienna, for example, you don't even have to leave the country or leave the city borders. The city is getting hotter and hotter every year. Global warming is actually occurring in the Alps at a faster rate than in most other places. So people will eventually need something that might be normal in other countries, but has actually only been a luxury item or even an unnecessary item until recently. For example, cooling at home, AC conditioning. Eventually, all houses will need to have one. At the moment, they're very expensive, so people that can afford them are less affected by climate change than people who can't and can actually never escape the heat. So here is where the social aspect emerges. It's also visible on a global scale. Usually poorer countries are more affected by climate change due to drought, due to saltwater intrusion. This is something that we see in the Pacific, for example, where we now expect more than 50 million people to be displaced until 2060, according to UN calculations, simply because their islands are not only slowly sinking into the water, but with saltwater intrusion, there will be no fresh water for them left. So it's visible that both on a micro and on a macro scale, it's usually the socially weakest people of our society that are hit the hardest. This global warming threatens long-term water and food supplies, biodiversity, and renders large parts of continents uninhabitable due to rising temperatures. It fosters the spread of sometimes dangerous diseases, and the melting polar ice caps will cause many islands to disappear and coastal areas to be irreversibly flooded. The climate and environmental crisis also pose a threat to democracy and a liberal society. So the biodiversity is actually a huge aspect. We're currently witnessing what a lot of scientists call the sixth mass extinction in history, we've had 5 large mass extinction events. A mass extinction event is where more of 50% of all animal biomass dies on our planet. And so far, we've had 5. The most recent one was 75 million years ago when a meteorite hit Earth and the dinosaurs died. But apart from that one, we are pretty sure that most mass extinction events actually occurred due to global warming, with the most severe event where we believe that 96% of all living creatures died, we believe was caused by a planetary heating of 3.6 degrees Celsius. We are currently around the 1.5 degree mark, so we're almost halfway there. So I think, and we are already witnessing the loss of species at an alarming rate that has only been seen 75 million years ago. Each week we're losing species, and it is something that needs to be stopped because the environment is an almost circular system. If you remove one part, all the others will begin to wobble, and it's a ripple effect that will also affect us in the long run. So there are many reasons for global warming. On the one hand, of course, the obvious one are our CO2 emissions. It's not just the CO2 emissions, though. It's greenhouse gas emissions in general. So greenhouse gas also includes methane, for example, which is mainly dispersed by cows and other livestock that we heard, and it's 8 times more dense than CO2, which makes it, to put it simply, 8 times more dangerous for our atmosphere. Also the consumption of resources and raw materials, which then ties into global CO2 emissions, and of course crises and wars, which also lead to more emissions. However, one thing that Christian forgot to mention here is another reason for global warming is that we keep on removing all the sinks for CO2. So on the one hand, we all know we're logging the Amazon and less carbon can be stored there, but also our oceans. Our oceans are responsible. So just phytoplankton, tiny, tiny little pieces of plant, essentially, that swim around the ocean are responsible for 55% of all our oxygen. And in order to produce oxygen, they need nitrogen from the air and then through photosynthesis, create oxygen. However, as we keep on dumping more and more litter and more chemicals into the ocean, this process is also slowing down. So it's not just that we emit more, but we also absorb less due to us treating our nature so recklessly. So this is the trend that you can see in tons. This is quite the alarming trend, and something that should also kind of get us all to think a bit is that this is just a fraction of the world that has participated, that has led to this stark increase. Europe, for example, is around 10% of the global population. However, we're responsible for around 26% of all emissions. So that means that we're living above our means. And we can see throughout Asia, Africa, South America, that these countries are developing at a very fast rate and living standards are increasing there, thankfully. However, this poses a new question that if all of these people actually live like us, then this graph would look way, way worse. So we're actually lucky here in Austria that we live such privileged lives and live on the environmental costs of others. Just to put that into perspective, so on average, the average Austrian has a CO2 emission of around 7 tons per capita per year. Here in Vienna, it's the lowest, of course. Cities always have a lower emission per capita. Here we're at around 5.5 tons per year, whereas if you go further west towards Tirol or Vorarlberg, you'll be at more than 10 tons. In comparison, other countries that rely heavily on imports, such as Australia, they are at around 16 tons per capita, whereas certain sub-Saharan countries in Africa, like Niger, are at 1.5 tons. So it's clear that it's more than a tenfold a person from Australia compared to a person in Niger. And eventually, all these people will want all the luxuries that we have: TVs, washing machines, non-stop power, cars, vehicles. And therefore, I think us as Western countries, it's almost our duty to ensure that these countries, while reaching the living standards that we've all reach it in a way that's possible for future generations to maintain this living standard. And currently, that's simply not what we're doing. The goal, therefore, must be to reduce CO2 emissions to zero in the long term, aiming to meet the 1.5-degree target of the Paris Agreement and prevent the crossing of tipping points that would have irreversible consequences. So the sad thing is, the Paris Climate Agreement, which was agreed on, I think, just over a decade ago, is basically, we can already scrap that. That's out of the window. The 1.5-degree target has, according to some scientists, already been reached. And I think it's really important that we think about realistic targets, because if you look at Copenhagen last century, or at the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Climate Agreement, all the COP meetings that we've had in Egypt and so on, it just seems like we emit tons of CO2 to all gather in one place to just sign a treaty that we all know nobody will actually act on. No country was ever on track to actually meet their targets, and no country ever actually truly tried. So I think rather than just signing another treaty, it's important that the people actually show the politicians that this is a matter that they truly care about, which is why initiatives such as this one are so important. The initiative itself sees itself as a link between NGOs such as Greenpeace, Global 2000, and interest groups like the Chamber of Labour and the Federal Party, and the SPÖ Parliamentary Club, so that's the group of elected officials. The goal is to build a network of experts in the field of environmental and climate protection to advance future-oriented topics. So how do they do that? So mainly through panel discussions. Creating awareness is obviously one of the key ideas in promoting climate change. That is done through panel discussions on topics such as soil sealing, which is very, very highly discussed in Austria, and that is actually something that most people across the political spectrum can agree on, that is happening at an alarming rate. We have the highest ground usage per capita in Europe. We have the largest amount of roads per capita in Europe, and we also have the largest sales area, so like store space per capita in Europe. And yet we keep on building new roads, new supermarkets. I don't know, you haven't been here some of you have been here longer, some of you have only been here for a couple of days, but if you walk through Vienna, one thing that truly stands out is you'll have a supermarket on every single corner, something that's just a sign of our almost unnecessary consumption. And then, of course, the regular exchange with environmental NGOs and the Social Democratic Party as a whole, and the submission of numerous motions and resolutions, as I mentioned before, on environmental issues. And the cool thing is that this not only allows policies that come from the population to be implemented, but it also encourages people to participate more, because if you have an idea, you put it to paper, you discuss it in your initiative, and you actually see it becoming a law, at least on a state level or on a federal level, I think that gives a lot of hope to people, and it truly invites them to participate more. And I think hope and trust in politics is something that has been suffering a lot in the last years, and is therefore integral for politics to push more. The initiative also published 3 papers, one action plan for climate justice, one on energy. Energy is a very, very big topic in Austria as well. So on the one hand, there are few countries in Europe that are as reliant on Russian gas still as Austria is. On the other hand, you've got certain smaller states that that run almost 100% on renewable energies, mainly through wind power, but we also have large hydrological stations. And there was also a paper on soil and its usage in Austria, which is also especially relevant here as this is just outside of Seestadt, is probably one of the most agricultural relevant regions, not just for Vienna, but probably for the entire country. And one thing that a lot of people also don't know is that Vienna itself is quite important as an agricultural producer. 2/3 of all cucumbers that are eaten in Austria are produced here within the city borders. Same goes for lentils, same goes for, there's a lot of wine being produced here too, seed oils, asparagus, strawberries. So even though it's a city, we actually have quite a big agricultural economy, and that needs to be protected, of course. So if that sounded interesting to you, you can obviously join the initiative, either directly on the website of the Social Democratic Party or on Facebook. And what does that have to do with art and culture? I think artists usually are at the forefront of not just political movement, but also bringing topics to the broader population. And I think that's why exchanges like these today are so important, because the science that global warming is here has been here for 60, 70 years, and nobody really cared. It only became relevant once it became a social movement, once it became a cultural movement. And yeah, I don't see scientists doing that for a multitude of reasons. So I think it's in the responsibility of the artists and of people that can influence the society in general to actually promote this topic, because the science is there. We just need to act on it, and we need to have the courage to act on it. And I think what can create more courage and what can create a better spirit than art. So in this sense, here's to a successful collaboration. Thank you, and have a nice day.
So, so as we now had all the organization presentation, including the initiative for sustainability, there is some space for comments. So if somebody wants to ask something, like Elisabeth? Is there anybody who wants to add some information?
I think it's a really important point that you made, Peter, about the small successes, because we can become overwhelmed and depressed by the statistics, and it's those small artistic interventions, those small wins that give us hope and give us encouragement for the future. And that's definitely what has happened with us with the Govan Graving Docks. We had 10 years of activism and artists making those cases, and finally the plans for the 750 high-rise flats were scrapped because of the activism, but also because of a realization that if they were built, they would be causing the flooding in themselves, because it would be yet more concrete and erosion of biodiversity. So it's those tiny little victories that we need to hang on to, and that's what this project, I think, has at its core.
Thank you, Liz. Anybody else? There was also comments to yesterday or to all partner presentations, or to anything else?
Well, maybe also a question to Pete. Thank you for your, again, inspiring presentation. It's always a pleasure. Well, my question is not yet super clear and elaborated, but I try to keep it as short as possible. There is a way of politics, leading or following, and I'm just thinking about that now. Related to Seestadt, there is a question for housing. So the program says we have to build because we need to build because people want housing and need housing, of course. On the other hand, you present initiatives that somehow take a stance, maybe not against housing, of course not, but to approach things differently, because for obvious reasons. So are you optimistic that politics are the right place to do so? Because in a way also, housing is a political and electoral thing, There's a reason for the large amount of social housing or affordable housing because these are the voters and you have to please them somehow. So can politics take action in this?
Of course, politics are often restricted because they have to get re-elected, and also they usually want to be in good standings with certain companies as well. So I do understand that question, but I think, yes, politics is the right place. First of all, it's essentially the only place we have to actually finalize on ideas and decide on them. So eventually it will have to go through politics. And second, I think there's actually a pretty good example of exactly this situation that you just mentioned that happened just outside of Seestadt. Initially, or maybe there still are plans to build a tunnel through a natural reserve that would link Seestadt with the south of Vienna. And this was a proposal by the city of Vienna, so therefore the Social Democratic Party. And within the Social Democratic Party, there were a lot of people that were against it, not just people from the environmental groups within the party, but just in general. And after almost, I think, 6 or 7 hours of probably 300 people discussing this during a party convention, essentially the project was shelved. And even though it would have meant, it would have not only made Seestadt more attractive for housing, especially for people with cars, but also it probably would have provided financial incentives in the long run. But the politics decided, no, the well-being of nature and the people is the priority here. And I think the only way to get politics to act that way is by having all the people that actually are affected sit in the room with you, because I think it's much harder for politicians to look into the eye of the inhabitants or the children and say, yes, we're building this road through your forest, than to just sit in a room and decide it. And I think that's where political participation becomes so important.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? We are...
It's actually a question to both Bernd and Pete, representing the Wiener Bildungsakademie here, our partner in Turning the Tide project. We are speaking a lot about Seestadt, we are speaking a lot about the challenges in Vienna, in Austria, the climate changes and so on. And now the forum for this is actually a cultural project. So coming here with a bunch of European partners and speaking about cultural interventions or artistic interventions, how do you see the connection? Why are you, as organization, in this international or European collaboration, starting actually with culture?
In my opinion, and maybe Pete will say something more, or even something different to me, I think we know all the facts. We know science is clear. So what is happening with our world, with the globe, is there. And for people who care about that, it's easy. We sort the trash. We try to use not too much cars. We have cars with modern motors, so we do that. But I think in the mainstream society, it's not like that. So when you talk to like the normal people, or we often say the people outside of the political spectrum, or outside of the political world do not behave like that. So they don't sort their trash. They even don't sort the paper out of the trash, as an example. So I think art has this. Maybe art can influence them. Maybe art can give them the idea on how to behave for a more sustainable living. And all our projects, maybe the two international ones, Camilla made two movies, two films, and I think the first one is very clear. The kids, you will see it later, explain it how to do it. And in the second one, she's telling it, she's targeting the problems. Also, when you will then walk by the ship of Jenny, you may think, okay, what is the ship doing here? What is a 100-year-old thing doing in the middle of the sea? And maybe people start thinking about sustainability, about how long things last. We buy a new smartphone every 2 or 3 years, but this ship is 120-year-old, and if we would help it a bit, it may swim again. So I think it's a question of sustainability and about the behavior, and the science and scientists told this years ago, but we didn't change our behavior. And so maybe art can change a bit.
I can only agree with what you said, and I think maybe just to give an example, I think if you look at the facility in Spittelau in the north of Vienna, where we burn our rubbish in order to provide heating for up to 200,000 homes in Vienna, it could have just been a massive concrete block, and all of the people that support environmental policies would be like, oh wow, the work they're doing there is great. But instead the city decided to have it designed by one of the most famous architects that Austria ever had, Hundertwasser, and now it's not just good for the environment, but it became culturally relevant through the artistic perspective. So now even people that don't care about environmentalism at all can see this building and appreciate that it's there because of its beauty. And I think that's what art and culture can do. They can get so many more people to rally behind something because it's just more to it.
Okay, but also the local artists, when you, Annie's veil, the veil is like, as she wrote, a symbol of behavior of humans. We don't know how long we have whales in the ocean, and now we have a 10-meter long whale in Seestadt as a symbol of how we should behave and how we should treat nature. And also the question of sustainability in the work of Daniel, he will explain it later. You paint a picture and it's away in 5 minutes, or even shorter. So all these questions can be somehow showed with art, or all our artworks here. I hope people will think when they watch it and when they see it and experience it, they will maybe change their mind in a small step. And as some said today and yesterday, it's the small step that can change a lot. So another more questions. We are 2 minutes now behind our schedule, but is there another question?
Thank you. I'm just wondering how can the initiative affect or inspire smaller housing communities which are quite old, 30 or 40 years old, and there is a lot of thinking it's getting too expensive to live in an environmental Umwelt. And how can you, and I think you just can do it by art, that you inspire the other. I'm not sure how to.
I don't exactly know how. I think that's the job of the artists, but I think the key message is it's not more expensive to live sustainably. It's it's cheaper. Currently, we just think that the way we live is cheaper because we push all the taxes, if you will, that we have to pay into the distant future. But eventually someone will have to pay them in some form or another. And that's not just metaphorically speaking, but you can actually calculate the environmental damage that is being conducted to the environment every year, and it's in the trillions. And even if you just look at Austria, for example, the west of the country is completely dependent on winter tourism. How high could rents be in a sustainable living condition to make it more expensive than all the losses that we will experience through the winter tourism industry in the next couple of years? Just that alone, it's impossible. The costs, the way that we're living right now, are so much higher. So I think somehow we need to get more people to understand that. But I think that's the artist's job to say how.
Yeah. So I think it's time for the short break. In our schedule it says that we start at 12 with the local artist presentations. Then we may make a short break here again, and then we have the international artist presentations. And after the international artist presentations, we go outside. So break 10 minutes. Eine alte Frau kocht Speck, setzt euch auf die Sesseln. So may I ask you to come in and sit down for the next part? So now we are entering the stage for the artists. So please sit down, come in, or we shoot rockets at you. So please sit down or at least be quiet. So before we go to the next stage, as it is an European funded project, we need to approve that you are here. So I ask each and everybody to sign. You don't have to give your email address. If you give, we can send you later on the pictures and so on, but at least name and signature is super, super important. So please, if you haven't done it, the list lies there where Peter and Karin is, so please sign, please. It's only for this day. We have a list for each day. Okay, so now we go to the artist presentation, moderated by Carl Kilian. Carl and me, we know each other for years and became friends and colleagues, artist colleagues, like 4 years ago. We have a super interesting project also with benchmarking, where we paint benches in the public space. But this is not the topic today. We could talk about that for hours with Elisabeth. She wants to have a side presentation later also. But now I give the floor to Carl. And I ask you to, if you have questions, just do it during the presentations, because the presentation will be very different, and on the end there is no space for a discussion. So if you have questions, do it now.
Do you have questions? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, friends and Romans. I'm happy that I'm here, and I'm very happy to be part of the project. I want to say, before I have the possibility, or I am proud to can present you some really great artists, and as Bernd already mentioned, there are very different positions of art. Some are more scientific, some are more into art, some are more into social engagement. This is because of our coal. We have a very complex coal with lots of different dimensions, and this gives us the opportunity to get people proposing from different fields. And this is a thing I like very much, that we don't have this one straight call. Everybody has to work with water, but very different. And for this, I am very thankful. I'm also very thankful that the 4 positions I can present you, I really like, and I really enjoyed to work with the artists. And that's a part that Ivona brought the idea to me yesterday, that we did not talk about the process for the artists themselves, how it is for the artists to cooperate with us. So I will ask also our locals how was the process for them, so we can learn from them and be better and better and better. But I also saw the other works until now from all our partners, and it's really a pleasure to participate in such a project where so many different and really good and interesting positions are shown. I think I want to applaud you, the whole group, because I think until now you did an amazing work. Thank you. So now to my first interviewee, please, Annie Vass, come to me on stage. I'm very happy to have Annie here, because she is in a position that is now a position that coming more and more often. She is a mother. She has a 40-year-old daughter. 14. Did I say 40?
Not 40.
Okay. Yeah, she's looking young. No, 14 years old, sorry. And she's also an artist that is very strongly engaged in the scenes. I might say in the last 10 years, she was one of the persons in Vienna doing the scene because she had her own exhibition space where she created really huge exhibitions in the zoos, and she also had the possibility. Yeah, it's the name of the project. Sorry. Yeah, for me it's the place, of course. And she also in this time were for 1 month artist in residence in China. So this is how modern artists have to work, and this is very hard. Maybe it's an idea for our project that we also think one day about the families and about the children, how we can also include them in artists in a residence. I was searching for something like that. This does not exist. So this would be something really new for us all to invent, because art is, for me, but yeah, we are standing here and, okay, I tell you in private. Okay, Annie.
Hello.
How was it for you to work in the project?
For me personally, does it work properly? Okay, good. I'm very happy to be part of this project because actually I'm working with object design and photography mostly, and mostly it has a lot to do with environment, consumerism, pop art also, and so in this project I have the feeling I could put it all together very nicely, and I think at least like that, and it's also great to now finally meet all the other involved people, which is very inspiring. So I already am working on a continuation of this project. I won't tell you right now, but Camilla inspired me especially. We talked about it, and I really want to stay connected, definitely. Yeah, and how did it come to the whale project, maybe? In the German language, Wahlkampagne is the same as election campaign. It's not the same, but it sounds the same, like only from the words. And so I think it's this was a funny idea that came up during all the election campaigns and stuff we had not long ago. But firstly, when I applied for this project, I wanted to work with outside public areas which are normally supposed to be filled with advertising, to advertise more and more products. You all know, once you travel around in the city, I think Vienna is actually quite known for having the most advertisement per capita or something. There is a number, I don't know now. Yeah, it's really weird because, I mean, maybe you are aware more now, now that you know. And I wanted to get some different images on those public screens or areas where, yeah, around. I thought here in Seestadt there should be plenty of construction sites, which are also quite often covered with advertisements. And so this was the first step. And then I decided I want to work with images that I am inspired by personally. And it came to the whale image because it's, for me personally, a universal symbol of environment awareness and climate activities. The whale, the blue whale, is a cosmopolite, and world is covered with water and his habitat, actually, by 70% or more, even. And if you think about the blue whale itself, it's the biggest mammal alive. It's so fascinating for me that it's probably even the biggest and heaviest animal ever lived on our planet. And kids are so much into dinosaurs, which supply us with oil greatly, that I wanted to pull more attention to the mammals, the special animals we still have here on Earth. And another interesting number is that there are approximately 12,000 or up to 15,000 blue whales left, which is, compared to Seestadt, almost the same. Okay, I'm talking too much. Good. Okay, so whatever. It's a very important global player, actually. Also, what depending the CO2 numbers Peter was talking about. Yeah, you already heard that. And wherever whales are, there is a lot of phytoplankton, which store a lot of CO2, so incredibly much. So yeah, so many reasons to celebrate the whale. And you can see it in like real dimension. I mean, I have a 30-meter wall outside, which is
the original. Is this the original size of the whale we see over there?
The biggest blue whale was around 36 meters long.
It's even bigger than your whole artwork.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's even bigger than that. And also the wall was not high enough, unfortunately. It's only 2 meters and 50. So you can see kind of a baby whale, 10 meters long. And you can have there are 2 details or areas that are more blown up and in life scale. So you can really stand next to the eye of the whale or the fin, and you get a comparison how big it really is. And it's rainbow colored, so like you can see over there at the original sculpture. And yeah, for me it's a symbol of, I would love to have the world or the citizens of the world be more colorful. And like also here the Seestadt is multicultural. I heard there are so many nations gathered here, which is very fascinating, and I think this is the way it should be. And yeah, color to the world. Okay, and for sure, please take the stickers and give it to your kids, nephews, put it on your phones and wherever, to remember, to keep it as a reminder that we still have these great animals with us. Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much for the insight in your work, and yeah, welcome, I would say.
Okay.
I cannot
Thank you so
welcome
much.
the next artist. He's also a friend of Ani. His name is Daniel Shukov. He is from Russian origin, living here in Austria since 10 years. He's a very young artist. He's 25 years old, and he already finished. I tell you this because this gives you an insight. You hear our little stars that are coming from Camilla's movie. The actors are already here, so this will come soon, this movie, to you. And Daniel is quite a complex character. For example, he studied mathematics, robotics on the Film Academy, on the University of Applied Art. He is now a double bachelor and will be soon a double master. He published a book, a literature book. He is writing himself a lot. He's a fine artist, and now he is since 1.5 years doing movies. So I tell you this because he's a little bit crazy, of course. If you do all this different stuff, you have to be very intelligent or crazy. I think he is very intelligent. And he told me I should show you this rocket that will bring a symbolic level to his movie. And it will be somehow broken. He did it himself together with a technician from Iran and programmer from Vienna. So this was an inter-universal thing. This is 3D printed, and this is carbon, and it flies 800 meters high. That's quite a lot. But why am I telling you this? Because he wants to bring this in the movie about water. I read his application, and I read it, and I thought about the application, and I thought, great, we have a series for television, because there's so many points of view and so many possibilities. So I'm interested how I will bring all this together, or maybe change everything. Yeah, but I know until now 4 short movies from him, and they all make sense. So I'm looking forward. So I warn you about these 3 scenes you get now. It's a work in progress. It might not make any sense to you. Maybe he does not yet to him, but it will. I versichere ich euch. Remy? I ensure you. Thank you, Remy. Okay, so enough of talking. Take a little look. Thanks.
Was für Leute bedeutet.
Ja, Wasser ist für mich ein Lebensader. Ohne Wasser kein Leben. Außerdem, ich fand es gut gefunden, dass man die Begrünung macht. Jetzt ist es nicht wieder weggerissen, aber trotzdem, das kann man ja machen.
Und können Sie ein bisschen mehr erzählen, worüber Sie sich aufregen?
Ich rege mich nur auf, weil das ein Engster ist. Da bleibt das ganze Klumpert stehen. Und dann, wenn das verstopft, die Röhren verstopft sind, dann geht es oben drüber mit voller Wucht. Das ist irgendwie eine Sperre, ist das Ganze.
Und bei der letzten Überflutung ist das passiert, oder?
Das war jetzt vor kurzem, das Unwetter, da ist alles geschwommen alles. Da ist sogar in die U-Bahn reingegangen. Und die Baustelle ist gestoppt worden. Ich gehört aus den Medien, dass die Baustelle bis am Wasser 10 Meter unter Wasser war, die Baustelle oder die Kraxrolle hier sind.
Und Sie wohnen hier in der Nähe, oder?
Ich wohne im 5. Ich habe die Baustelle neben mir. Und da steht jetzt alles.
Yes, this was This was the short pastiche from Daniel, and you heard the sound is horrible and stuff like that, but this will be, I don't even know if this material will stay in the final film. Yeah. So, the next one I want to present is Paul Kitzmüller. Paul, come to me, we go in front of your works. Light, please. Light, please. So you can see the works of Paul better. Yes.
Hello.
Paul is an upcoming artist that is now studying in Linz. He was exhibiting at art fairs like Interart Stuttgart, Parallel Vienna, or AC Contemporary in Vienna. Actually, at the moment there is an exhibition in Linz going on, a solo exhibition, and upcoming the art fair Klosterneuburg and the spring in Stuttgart. Yes, the first thing when I saw your proposal, I was thinking about Keith Haring. Is there a connection to you?
There is some connection, but at first I really want to say thanks to Elisabeth Kaiser. She was also a part of the Wiener Bildungsakademie. She's a collector and supporter of my art. I want to say thanks to Karl and Bernd. And also it's a pleasure for me to get in touch with the international curator, organizer, and artist. About my work. I'm doing scenes many years, these characters. Like you said, he was inspired by Keith Haring as well, but they're doing another way, and it's the questioning, sure, maybe a few people say, how you can do characters, because Keith Haring have this topic overloaded. But I think art is free, and in my art, it works about connection to each other. It's more how we connect it. It can be love, it can be very pleasure, but it can be very hateful, and also in the society, it can get until the war. And it's, if you look a bit from the further view, it's perfect position. The characters come from up, from down, on the left, from the right, and have a suction effect. It's like, and particular to that work, it's have 4 pieces, because each, in the Seestadt, it gives 4 districts, and each district got 1 color. And the work calls, don't be alone, you're with other people as well.
Okay, you answered at the moment my next question, because I saw your works, and they're absolutely contrary to Keith Haring. Keith Haring often has this solo character because of this his illness and stuff like that. But why are you choosing to? You always fill the canvas, and I think we were discussing a huger project in public space, but it was not then not possible. So why so many characters? What does it mean to you? There is no space in between us, or how do you see this?
Yeah, creating my own friends through the characters, and it's about, yeah, it's about connection. It's, but I say it, it's like they are dancing. I have to go a bit back because I was, in my early 20s, I was a half professional dancer. I would say I did like contact improvisation dance, a bit ballet, a bit modern dance. And I think that also inspired me to draw those painting. And sometimes people think they're prints, and it's a pleasure for me that they think they're prints because it's so detailed. And yeah.
I also asked Annie, and I also want to ask you, how was the process for you from the beginning to being now here and presenting the different quarters of Seestadt?
Yeah, it's like you said, that was the first idea to make a big, huge wall drawing, and the idea was like doing 12,000 characters because in the city lives that much inhabitants, but like you say, it wasn't happen. And then I choose that work because, yeah, it's what I was questioning where we are, and you can really point out to find yourself, and be showing up once a smaller work at the market, and sometimes the kids are coming to the place, I'm that, you are that, and that is a nice interaction.
Yeah, the children love your work. That's so. The future is yours, I think. Yeah. Do you have any questions until now? No. So, thank you,
fine.
Paul, for
Thanks a
being
lot.
here. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thanks.
And I wanted to add that Paul is not only a fine artist, he's also into literature and poetry. So I think now the new generation, I call it the new generation, or the contemporary generation is maybe the right word, is in very different fields. I think this is also because the technique got easier, it's easier to produce a film and stuff like that. So there is still many things to come in the next few years, if we are still alive, because of climate change. And with climate change brings me to another, our fourth artist. This is Daniel Böswirt. I always have a problem with your family name, sorry. And he's working with this topic, but he's also making literature, and he's a performance artist, so he's doing also a lot of things. And he is now here with a special project that really shows exactly what climate change does, but he told me I should not talk about the project. He wants you to come to him, and he is presenting there the project, and you can try it out, and it's magnificent. You can explain, I don't tell anymore. Sorry, Daniel, thank you.
Hello. I'm glad to be here. I created for the Turning the Tide project my ephemeral art project. What is very important for my project? I will say a few things about what's about. You know this, everybody knows, is a normal handy, a smartphone. I use it, you use it, make selfies, very important. And I created for the Turning the Tide a very special Stone Age cell phone. You'll never see before, I think. What's for? You can phone with this, but you can sign something. What I want people to do is they take a brush in the water and write or draw something on the Stone Age cell phone. Say hello, communicated. They disappear very quickly. I go to the street and say, what comes in your mind, throw or write something about weather. And I make a picture from this and make a collage, digital, I think it's collage. Yeah? What I want showing is we cannot keep things. They always disappear. We also disappear. This is a bad news, and so is experience. Yeah? This is the first object. The second object is a twin tablet. This is a normal Stone Age tablet. You can try, make something. And this is a twin Stone Age tablet. It's connected with electricity, you see. On the right side, the tablet, this is splitted, is heat up to 50 degrees. Why 50 degrees? Scientists found out that in Paris, 2040, in a hot summer day, we have 50 degrees. So you can maybe an eye. No? And here, what's happened? They disappear very quickly. If we don't change our politic and, against the climate change, we also very quickly disappear, I think. Okay, and the third object is we have 12 tablets, and these 12 tablets, I want that you make a picture. And this little one in the big one, in the big white frame. So it's very difficult because the time is against you. Okay. So it's more to try and work as to tell about. Yeah? Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we make a short break that you all can go to Daniel's work, or not all, if you can do it now, or he's here also after the next two presentations. So we make a 10-minute break to try it, and then the international artists. Yes, like the international are like the main stars, and like in a concert, the last two bands are always the best ones. So 10-minute break. Nico, weiter geht's. Should we just start?
Okay, hello, my name is Kamila Homic, and yeah, I was here on artistic residency, and the topic that was very interesting for me, it's biodiversity in the city and the wild animals. So I was searching different narration and different topics related to this, and one of the story that I found, for example, it was the story of these animals that are living in the lake, and the story of the people, how they interact with this animal.
Okay. Das ist Camilla, ich werde jetzt kurz ein bisschen auf Deutsch übersetzen. Und sie hatte ihre Künstlerresidenz hier und sie hat sich vor allem auf die Tiere, Kriech- und Krabbeltiere im See spezialisiert.
Yes. So when I was visiting a lake, I saw there some wild animals, and I also saw the people who are feeding the wild animals, for example, with the bread, and I saw the people who were questioning themselves if they should do it or not, and there was like, you know, some kind of question in the air, actually what we should do as a human, how we should treat the wild animals close to the lake.
Sie ist beim See spazieren gegangen und sie hat nicht nur Tiere gesehen, sondern auch Menschen, die mit den Tieren interagiert haben, die die Tiere gefüttert haben und auch andere Menschen, die sich gefragt haben, sollten wir die Tiere überhaupt füttern, wie sollten wir mit ihnen interagieren, und das hat ihr dann die Frage in den Kopf gebracht, wie sollen wir eigentlich mit der Natur umgehen, vor allem auch hier in der Seestadt.
And to answer to this question, I asked these children that are here, and they were like an actor in a short video that you will see. So generally, the scientific point of this topic about feeding wild animals with the bread, there are like two opinions. One of them is like that we should not feed the wild animals, and the other, if we are feeding the wild animals, like for example the birds in the parks, we should do it with this what they like to eat. Not with the bread, because it can be dangerous for them, but for example with the grains, and we should do it just, for example, only in the winter time.
Also herauszufinden, wie man mit der Natur und mit den Tieren hier umgehen soll, hat man die wichtigsten Bewohner der Seestadt gefragt, die Kinder natürlich. Gleichzeitig wollte sie auch noch festhalten, dass die Wissenschaft sagt, wenn man schon Tiere füttert, dann mit Sachen, die sie auch natürlich essen würden, Samen, Pflanzen und nicht mit altem Brot, das man zu Hause rumliegen hat.
And then the other question, in answer for this question, we will search in this video, and the kids were playing like an actors for a moment, and they reflect their own opinion about it, and eventually also after video they can say what they think about it or the other things. But generally, also I was walking around the lakes and observe the animals here and the nature. So here on the photos you can also see the other animals that I saw in Seestadt.
Der Film zeigt einerseits natürlich die Meinungen und Reaktionen der Kinder, die hier wohnen, zu diesem Thema. Andererseits zeigt es auch generell die Aufnahmen, die sie hier in der Seestadt von der Natur gemacht hat. Einige der Aufnahmen werden im Film sein, die anderen kann man hier auch beobachten.
And there are some amazing animals like lizards, birds, like dragonflies and insects. And maybe now also when you will walk around, you will search these animals, and maybe also you will think about it, what we can do, how we can be with the wild animals, where we can search them.
Also einige der Tiere, wie zum Beispiel Eidechsen, Libellen, wenn ihr dann nachher rausgeht, so werdet ihr vielleicht selber auf die Suche nach ihnen gehen und dann vielleicht selber ein bisschen zum Nachdenken kommen, wie wir mit diesen Tieren umgehen sollten.
So our video we just record for 1 hour, so it's some kind of a trial, or like, I don't know, we just try to do it. I want to thank you very much for participation. It was really nice to meet you. And
Sie möchte sich bedanken bei euch fürs Filmen. Es war richtig toll, euch alle kennenzulernen.
It was really great to meet you and also learn from you many things.
Und auch von euch zu lernen.
So we will watch the video and then eventually, if anybody want to say something, there will be time for that.
Ja, und ich möchte mich an der Stelle auch bei der Gabi bedanken, Gabi Plank, die den Kontakt zu den Kindern hergestellt hat. Und wie sich's in einem richtigen Kino gehört, hat die Gabi auch noch eine Kleinigkeit für euch vorbereitet.
Special thanks goes to Gabi, who organized all of this and got in touch with the children. And as it should be in a proper cinema, she also provided the snacks.
So, and
Wusstest du, dass Schwäne nicht wissen, wie Selfies funktionieren? Wusstest du, dass Schwäne nicht wissen, wie Selfies funktionieren? Die Leute gehen zu nah dran und machen Fotos und die Vögel reagieren aggressiv. Das sind wilde Tiere, keine Filmstars. Genau, und wenn man ihnen große Menge Brot füttert, können sie krank werden. Und allgemein sollte man sie nicht füttern. Da stimme ich zu, aber da sich einige von ihnen vielleicht schon teilweise daran gewöhnt haben, von Menschen gefüttert zu werden, sollten wir ihnen in diesem Fall zumindest etwas Gesundes geben, wie Körner. Besser wäre es, wenn man die Vögel füttert, wenn es überhaupt nötig ist. Zum Beispiel in kalten Monaten wie Dezember, wenn die Vögel kein Futter finden.
Vögelbrot zu füttern ist fast genau wie bei einer Party zu viele Süßigkeiten zu verteilen. Es scheint zuerst Spaß zu machen, aber zu viel macht krank. Vögel wie Menschen brauchen das richtige Futter, um gesund zu bleiben.
Hummeln sind die Hauptbestäuber von Tomaten. Sie klingen zwar langsam, aber sie sind in Wirklichkeit sehr wichtig. Sie mögen Wildblumen und sogar Disteln.
Um Wildbienen zu helfen, müssen wir die heimischen Wildblumen für sie stehen lassen, damit sie Nahrung bekommen. Im Gegenzug geben sie uns unser Essen.
Wusstest du, dass es in Österreich 700 Wildspinnenarten gibt? Ich mag den See, wenn es sehr warm ist, weil oft, wenn es sehr warm ist, gehe ich dann mit meinen Nachbarn schwimmen und wir haben so ein riesiges, so ein Schwimmbrett, wo man paddeln muss drauf. Und damit fahren wir oft bis in den See sehr weit rein und dann springen wir oft runter oder tauchen dort runter. Und ich habe mal hier ein Schwanennest mit Eiern gesehen, hinten bei der Brücke. Und auch Babyschwäne mit ihrer Mama und mit ihrem Papa schwimmen. Und ich bin sehr oft hier.
Und ich finde es hier einfach schön, weil ich hier nah mit der Natur bin.
so, ich glaube, das ein großer Applaus für die jungen Schauspieler und Schauspielerinnen? Peter? Ja. Vielleicht wollt ihr alle kurz raufkommen. Vielleicht kommt's kurz. Kommt's kurz.
Okay. So, yeah, it's working? Yes. So thank you very much for participation. I don't know, maybe you have some questions after watching this or about our meeting or about animals close to the lake. Anybody have some question?
Ich übernehme jetzt mal von Peter. Also herzlichen Dank für die Teilnahme. Schön, dass ihr dabei wart. Wollt ihr vielleicht noch etwas sagen oder gibt es noch Fragen, nachdem ihr den Film gesehen habt? Also die Frage geht hauptsächlich an die Kinder. Möchte jemand was sagen?
I mean, if nobody have a question, it's fine.
Ist auch in Ordnung, wenn niemand etwas sagen möchte.
Yeah, I'm very happy also, to get the information from the citizens about the nature, because you know a lot if you are living here for a long time. Also here on the table, if you want to take the fruit, you are very welcome. The fruits are effect of the pollination, the bees and other insects produce for our food in that way. And also you can watch the photos of the wild bees that I took from different places, from Poland, but also some from Vienna.
Wer möchte, kann sich auch hier an dem Tisch, der ein Teil der Installation ist, auch die Früchte nehmen. Die Früchte sind natürlich ein Ergebnis der Arbeit der Insekten, also der Bestäubung und so weiter. Und das zeigt auch den Kreislauf, wie hier das Leben funktioniert. Und das sehe ich den Peter, der gerne übernehmen darf, wieder beim Übersetzen.
Yeah. Yes, and that was also my reflection how we can actually support biodiversity in the cities and why it's so important for the people. So now we will present another video that I record here. It will be in English and it's a little bit longer, but image also will be not so visible, but I hope you will like it.
So ist sie dann drauf gekommen, wie wichtig Biodiversität ist für uns, und dazu hat sie einen zweiten Film gemacht. Der wird auf Englisch sein. Ich werde ihn nicht übersetzen.
Yeah, and then also,
ja.
and then we can just also talk about this video.
Und wir können danach natürlich darüber reden.
Imagine taking a walk around an artificially created lake, which became an oasis not only for the local people, but also for the wild animals. A place where humans meet nature and biodiversity find a new home. So can it be possible to maintain a rich biodiversity in a modern city? Across the world, biodiversity is rapidly declining due to habitat loss, landscape changes, and climate change. Urbanization driven by growing population continues to take over areas that were once home to wildlife. How can we harmonize human needs with the preservation of nature in urban spaces? My brief stay in Seestadt took place in October. During my visit, I still had a chance to observe some pollinating insects gathering pollen under the soft autumn sunlight. Butterflies, wild bees, flies, beetles, and other insects who are essential for maintaining ecosystem stability and whose presence in a city is possible to improve. In Vienna alone, over 450 bee species have been identified, with the honeybee being just one of them. Supporting this incredible biodiversity can be achieved by creating flower corridors filled with diverse native plants. Focusing on quality and diversity of flowering plants could be a great idea. The lake in Seestadt is a popular spot for relaxing and swimming, like a natural pool. However, animals have also found a place to live here, each in a different way, with its own level of interaction and adaptation to the local environment. Observing this place made me wonder, does feeding the fish and the water birds with the bread truly help them? And what impact does it have on the lake itself? Have you ever wondered if releasing non-native fish and animals into a lake could be harmful, and whether it might be better just to simply look around and appreciate the local wildlife, like for example dragonflies or lizards? Sympetrum striolatum made a heart-shaped position and sometimes remain in a tandem while laying eggs into the water. Wild animals can adapt to the city life. Some of them can become less fearless or more visible. People often try to get closer to them, blurring the line between wild and domestic. However, we sometimes forget that these animals still have their own natural instincts and needs, different from our own. When I was walking around Seestadt, I often felt like moving through a perfectly planned model city where everything is carefully designed. You could witness and admire technological innovation, efficient transport system, and outgoing social project. However, in the already urbanized city space, for me sometimes too much of the ground is covered by asphalt or concrete, leaving a little space for the natural diversity. In the afternoon, I like visiting the undeveloped part of Seestadt, where time seems to slow down without the noise of the construction. Compact urban development can help to support biodiversity by ensuring that green spaces such as parks, natural reserves, are preserved or created around the city edges. It's also important to establish ecological pathway within urban areas, allowing animals to move, fly, or migrate safely. Humans prosper during a time of rich biodiversity, which help us adapt and survive in different environments. It's crucial now to think about it, how to protect and sustain it, as human actions impact the natural world that support us.
An dieser Stelle möchten wir sagen, dass wir jetzt wieder auf Englisch weitermachen und eine Diskussion ein kurzes Gespräch zum Film haben. Also wenn die Kinder vielleicht, wenn ihr gehen, ihr dürft sehr gerne bleiben, aber ich weiß nicht, wie spannend das für euch ist. Also nochmal herzlichen Dank an die Kinder, dass ihr dabei wart. And now we natürlich auch an die Eltern, die Text gelernt haben. So I said, thank you kids for joining. Thanks to the parents for learning the text. It was a full afternoon, a long time to produce this film. Und nochmal herzlichen Dank. So we now change. Okay. So we now change to English again, and I ask Liz Gardiner from Fable Vision to have a short conversation with Camilla about her stay here and her work in Vienna. And I please ask you to stay in the middle, to be in the camera. Normally you're on the other side of the camera, but now I ask you to be here.
Thank you, Bernd. And yes, and the part of the project is to look at what we've been doing here, what we've been engaged in here. And the Turning the Tide project has different strands. We've had, each city has engagement with local artists, which is really important for ongoing dialogue and development sustainably throughout. But we also have these visiting artists who are coming from different cities and responding to what they're seeing here as incomers coming for the first time. And that's what Camilla's role has been. So Camilla, can I just ask you, what attracted you to this project in the first place?
So in the first place, attract me Vienna as a place and Austria because it's a very interesting city because of the biodiversity of the wild beasts, and that's the animals that I really like, and I like to get knowledge about them. And here's some kind of scientific center and a lot of scientists who know a lot about this topic. And generally like any kind of other experiment, and also what I could learn here about life and biodiversity in a city, because this is a challenge we have now. Because generally what I saw here, like there is like so many amazing solutions when we talk about, electricity use or like, I don't know, water use, social projects, like it's a lot of very interesting things here. But the first things when I came here, that the view of so much asphalt and cement and not really like a wild nature in the city was something that visually hit me in a way. And that was like a question for me, where actually is a space for the wild nature in the city generally, in this city, and what are the solutions? So that was very interesting experience because I searched the answer in many places and I talked with many scientists about the very different topics also. So I think in a way, like this is a topic that here wasn't a topic yet, like for sure 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago. And probably now there will come some kind of changes, and there are like, from this what I understand, there are like some kind of questions and the way to search the solution, actually, how to bring biodiversity in the city. And of course, we as a human need a diverse world because we were involved and live in a whole history of planet in very diverse time. And nature is making some things that call it like services. It's produced for us food, clean the water, clean the air, and made a lower temperature of the air. So without nature, actually, or without biodiverse nature, it's a question. Human will not have any more comfortable life, or maybe will not exist anymore on this planet. So I think it's quite important, like question now, because we as a human taking more and more land. Actually, where is the space for the wild nature? And of course, the space for the wild nature can be outside of the city, but still also can be inside of the city.
Thanks, Kim. Can I ask you, when you arrived in Seestadt and spent some time here, what was it that decided you as to what approach you were going to take and how you were going to respond to what you found here?
Well, actually, I came with the idea that I will make a video about non-human citizens of Seestadt. So that was my idea, and that was only a question how it will look like and what kind of topic directly I will try to expose, or in which way I just want to like show the story, or like how I can also get an answer for some question related with this story.
And how did you find the experience of exploring that?
Yeah, it was very interesting. As I say, I think because of some kind of scientific data and information, like Vienna and Austria somehow are quite unique. So I talked with many scientists, and for myself, that was really, I think, very important part of this staying. Also, I touched some topics that I didn't know before, like for example, wild hamsters in the cities, or yeah, some things that I didn't know. It's maybe more, I mean, now I'm thinking what I can do is this, what I have, and of course this video was very general, so it didn't like put too much information inside. So yeah, like now it's just a question for me, what can I do more? But I get to know like interesting people, also artists and scientists, and I think I link some people also together. So for me, that was something nice from it that comes out.
Do you think Seestadt, one of the criticisms has been that I've heard that there isn't enough biodiversity in the new development of Seestadt. Interestingly, we found when we went on the walk around the building site, it's fascinating how many wildflowers have managed to survive and grow, and how many insects are there.
It's very hard to say what is enough and what kind of also diversity as a human do we want. Because as we know, like we have now like new species of mosquitoes in London, you know, new species of rats in New York, for example. And this is also biodiversity that is growing. But the question is if this biodiversity is good for human, and actually what kind of biodiversity, we now really deciding actually who can survive on that planet and in which shape. And there's like many questions, because nature as itself can grow with invasive plants, for example, with invasive organisms, but can we survive with invasive organisms? So I think nowadays probably we take care of the nature more just for ourselves, for people, just to live more and longer in a comfort life. Not for the nature at itself. And we are making decisions, and these decisions are very responsible decisions, because they are affecting the nature, but also can affect like humans.
Thank you. Well, beautiful films. Wonderful to see you interacting with the young people. It's the young people who will decide the future of our planet. And congratulations on that project. So does anybody have any questions for Camilla or comments on what you've seen?
No question. Thank you.
Remy.
Yes, there is a question.
Of course, Camilla, I have a question.
There is a question.
We've had some talks, and I could approach you as an artist, as a scientist, as a biologist maybe, as a filmmaker, as a photographer, as an educator, and I'm forgetting a couple, but maybe also as an activist, as an ecologist maybe. And as you also know, our world, and maybe also this project, is organized in boxes, you know, you're either this or that. How do you feel? Do you feel comfortable being in between all these boxes? Is the conscious choice to be in between? And if you would have to choose a specific role, one of these boxes, let's say, which one would you choose?
Yeah, this is a question. I think like I always have some kind of doubts about it. And it's really interesting question how to be. But I think I can connect some words together, and this is something where I can find myself, because from one side, for example, I know some artists, and the friends of mine, they are artists, and the way how they sing sometimes, and I know also a lot of scientists in a way. I also like try to be active in a society, so maybe this is where I find myself sometimes. It's between all of those words, and by like just connecting them, so here will come maybe the education activists and some other things that will link these different actually words. And I think this is sometimes what we also need, because I understand that many people have a good intention to help the environment or do something, but sometimes in this case the knowledge is needed, or sometimes there are like people who have a knowledge, but then some other things are needed, like just to how to present it and show it. So yeah, maybe in between.
Thank you. Thanks, Remy, for the question. Thanks for the response. We've got time for one more question for Camilla.
I don't think so. Thank you so much.
No more questions. Thank you, Camilla. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you.
Can I just say one more word? Excuse Excuse me, I'm sorry. I just want to thank to Carl, who helped me to record the video with the kids. Of course, I don't speak German, and it will be very hard to communicate with the kids without knowing the German language. So Carl was the one actually who put a lot of effort to make this video, so thank you.
So we have two artists from further afield coming to Seestadt and responding to their experiences here. And our other artist is the wonderful Jenny How do I pronounce your name, Jenny? And she is going to come and speak with us. Yeah. And Jenny is from Greece and works internationally. And I'll leave you to take it away, Jenny.
And Yuri to listen to us. So I'm the last one. Maybe you have heard already about my projects. So sorry if I repeat myself. So I'm, as Lee said, I was born in Greece. I live between Greece and New York, where I studied. And I'm very happy to be here, and I want to thank Art from Athens for inviting me, but I want to thank everybody who helped me to do these projects. I have never been in Seestadt before. I found out about Seestadt through my research. So do you want me to start, or do you want?
Yes, I just want, sorry, my first question was, what attracted you to come to this project in the first place? What was it about the Turning the Tide project and Seestadt that attracted you to come?
Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about why it makes sense, why I'm a Seestadt, by the way that I work. My practice is research-based and process-based, which means that I spend a lot of time in doing research and spending a lot of time in being in one place before I start doing projects in this place. So I want to say that through my work I have been traveling, and this has allowed me to work in different contexts, with different people, with different histories, but always I have a methodology which comes with me. And this methodology is, first of all, that I like to collaborate with people that they are not necessarily always part of the art world. I work with marine biologists, I work with activists, I work with environmentalists, I work with kids. I work with very young people because I believe that young people bring another kind of imaginary in the language, in the artistic language. So as I say, I'm a visual artist, interdisciplinary artist. I don't come from the science, but I enjoy very much working with other disciplines, and especially also with communities. Now, I have to say that our theme here has been water. And then I come to your question, why this has been very appealing to me to work here. I want to say that for me, when I talk about water, I see water from a very, very broad aspect. Water for me is politics. Water has agency. Water is something that, as I start exploring more and more, I want to learn from the water. So I start looking into the water not as part of the environment, not as part of the background, but I like to see how the water affects the way we live, the way we learn from the water, and I'm very interested in giving personhood in the water. So it's like the water is talking to us and asking us what it wants us to do in order to be fresh, in order to be wonderful, in order to be clean, and because and how all these non-human beings that they are part of the water can survive. So coming to Seestadt was I was very intrigued because in my research, before I came here, I found out that it was in my opinion, it was a fully artificial smart cities. As we know how many cities right now all over the world are trying to become smart, you know. So for me, it was very interesting to work because so far I have been working with projects very connected with natural environments, especially with coastal cities. So for me, it was I was intrigued with the idea that I was going to work in a city which the focal point is a man-made lake. So this lake for me was the inspiration for which I did a lot of research, I must say, before I came here. So the project I proposed before I came here was to intervene with the water of the lake, work with the community. But when I came here, I decided when I got off the subway and I was struck by this cement environment, when I was looking for nature, wondering how nature will be allowed to come through these already contrived, beautiful spaces. I said, no, I cannot create anything new. I cannot add in this super designed city something else, you know? So right away, I changed my mind. And I started looking, going back to plan B. I started, so I have 3 strands in my project. The first strands, which they all intertwine in my research. The first was, first of all, to meet the community. And the best way for me was to work with kids, with young students. Maybe Bernd can tell me the name of the school because I won't be able to. Actually, they came here yesterday and they were very disappointed that they couldn't talk, but they couldn't come today. So my first workshop was with the kids, which was, as you see, that's my contribution to the exhibit, with their names. And this was a kind of looking, for me, it was very interesting to see this symbiosis between the young people and their everyday lives and the lake. And how is this symbiosis, how do they relate? But I didn't want to talk about the obvious. I didn't want to talk about the fish. I didn't want to talk about the plants. I didn't want to talk about the flowers. I wanted about the birds. I wanted to talk with them about the invisible and how with them we can start exploring the invisible. So we start talking about the plankton. Plankton is this algae that we don't see, but it is so important in our life, in our oxygen, in our atmosphere, in our sustainability. So we came here, and Peter, who is here, and I want to thank him, who is a biologist, his background, he gave a very beautiful introduction, very scientific introduction to the young kids. We were about 20 kids, about what? About the plankton. And then it comes my turn as the artist, and I say, so guys, now let's imagine that each of you is a plankton. What would you say to us human beings? What would you like us to do to take care of you? So each one became a plankton. And you see in this big brown paper, each one wrote what they want us as humans to hear from them. And then we did a protest about the rights of the plankton, And then I asked them to create a game. And this is a board game that we create on the floor, in which every origami boat that they made by hand was a plankton. And we were asking, our game was very simple, that we will ask people to walk through the game, but if they step on these boats, they step on the planktons. So how we can take care of the plankton. So this is our board game. So that was one of my interactions. The other was, I don't have the boat. There is a boat here, a plastic boat that Bernd wanted to show. So I did I was very interested in doing an audio. What for me is it was very interesting. I wanted to embody with the lake, and I'm very interested very much. I have been reading a lot of native poetry, and Beatriz Diaz has been very inspiring to me. When he talks, the body is the water is the body. And in a way, my boat exploration by myself and with Peter, who was rowing this plastic boat, was this embedding myself with the water. So it was more a reflection, was something, but I have done a lot of underwater audios now, which I will do eventually. And my third strand in this project, as you all see, is my decision that I won't do, as I said before, I changed my mind. I didn't want to add something new in this already super, in my opinion, designed city. So through a lot of research and with a lot of help from colleagues from Vienna, which I had worked before, we started doing research. I wanted to bring, I'm very interested, and as you will see from my film there, from other projects, the idea of the vessel, the idea, because it is very important to me, also historically, the relationship that vessels have with water, and especially a vessel that is very connected with the Viennese culture, and especially the river. So I did a lot of interviews. I had the privilege, my friends, to have a car. So I had the privilege to spend several days and several hours along the river, interviewing. And then I found the boat that you will all see. It's 100, as I found out. After a lot of research, actually, the only thing we had was a number that you will see on the boat. So we went and we called the city, because you find out the history of the boats through registration. So we found all the information. So it used to be, this boat was built in 105. It carries the voices of the Austrian army, that they were using this boat to look on the river for explosive after the First World War. Then it became with the fire brigade, and then it became a ferry that was transferring people from one side to the river to the other, till it became fatigued, and I found it in a yard. So this boat for me represents, it was a very symbolic, I would say, gesture to bring in juxtaposition the craft, I would say marine design, marine history, but also a boat which is Zile, and Zile in the Viennese culture is a very important kind of a boat. It's connected with shipping, but it is very connected with the water culture of the river. So somehow bringing this, let's say, it's not nostalgia. I don't want to romanticize, but I feel for me it was very important to bring a dialogue, this very contemporary environment, with something that adds, I would say, not exactly heritage, but brings a lot of questions, wonders. It seems sometimes like the flood brought it and accidentally it put it on the wedge. Is in dialogue with the lake. It may go into the lake one day, who knows? Maybe another catastrophe may throw it there. My idea was to use the vessel, that's why I call it in the belly of the garden, because my idea was to plant special plants that, especially like sunflowers, mustard seeds, that they clean the water in the environment. But then I thought, as I have been working and listening to people that they come every day and they ask me, I said, no, I'm not going to follow the same design of the city that I predict and what exactly I want to do. So I'm going to let nature also decide. And my plans is, because it's going to be here for a year, to collaborate, I have already started, to collaborate with groups from Vienna. And hopefully the school that they helped me build this, they will help me to sustain the boat, sustain the growth of the boat, and eventually we will decide together, or collectively or on their own, what they would like to grow. And so I would like also to call it the Garden of Knowledge. I hope through the year we will create community, we will create other relationships. I already work with with this group, Artists for Future, with Maria Holter, the curator. I also already is the Ecologies of Care with Elke Kerne, that is a group of women, actually it's a big feminist group with women from all over Europe. So we are planning to do also an event, but also I'm open to ideas. So
and now the boat becomes part of the story of Seestadt.
Right.
Thank you for that, Jenny. And we're going to go and see the boat together. But before we go, does anybody have any questions for Jenny?
And yes? Oh, yes.
Yes.
I have a question or a comment input. So if I understand correctly, the primary gesture that forms the basis of the intervention with the vessel, it is a gesture of bringing an object that condenses some sort of a marine or aquatic reality of Vienna into a place in which this aqueous dimension is artificially recreated. So in a sense, it seems that although there is a program inside the vessel with the garden, I would also say that there is a very specific effect of the vessel itself somehow rendering the background it stands upon as strange. It estranges somehow Seestadt itself. Is it a reading that somehow aligns with how you conceived the project?
Right, definitely, because it started by me questioning the city as structure, and I had a lot of actually discussions with architects from Vienna. I spoke with I spoke with a historian, which is a specialist about marine archaeology, which is related with the river. So for me, that was one of my concerns. And because the city starts from the very beginning, the extreme of Anthropocene, the extreme of anthropocentric intervention, even the man-made I'm not criticizing whether the city is comfortable, whether people feel very safe. I'm talking as an artist and my relationship, how I create a project, which in a way is not only used to beautify, but also bring some, even I may use the word criticism. I'm taking a position, I'm making a comment about how I feel in relationship to this artificial environment. So for me, that was, of course, a concern and something that I wanted to address. And I want to talk about it, and I want to continue through this year, as I call through this kind of interactions with another community, with other people, with other artists, with other gardeners, with other anything, you know. How it's going to develop, I don't know. And that's the beauty, I think, for me, that I don't know what is going to happen.
Thanks, Jenny.
Nature has so many potential. I want to leave the potential of nature also to grow through it. Already, there are two plants on the boat that they're dying. They don't like the environment. So I'll take them out and see what else I'm going to do.
Thanks, Jenny. Any more questions for Jenny before we go out and see the boat? Anyone? No? Okay, so we're going to go, and Bernd, are you going to lead us, or how does this work? Thank you. Thank you, Jenny.
Yes, I mean, what I want to say, I want to thank, the list of thanks will take me an afternoon to do this project. I have to thank Peter, I want to thank Bernd, I want to thank everybody of this new community that I met, of you guys that came from also the other countries. I want to thank also the artists I met, Camila, you, I mean, I admire their beautiful skills to create these amazing maps, learning from Camila about all these species. It has been a very wonderful experience watching your piece also happening next to mine, learning about the other artist who just left, about his container. So it has been an incredible also experience of exchange, of learning from each other, hopefully, and it will be a great something to remember. I'll miss you all, actually. And I drove you crazy, I know, Bernd, but that's okay. You will forgive me.
So, you want to?
Oh yes, you can see actually. I was going to ask you guys to make me boats. I don't know if you know how to make children's boats, because I want to collect those for another game that I want to do. But anyway.
But sorry, Jenny, before we go there, I want to say bye-bye to the live stream, because we are now leaving to the boat. To all live viewers online, come to Seestadt and visit the boat of Jenny. Come to Seestadt and visit the whale from Andy Vass. So see you at the next live stream.